What is certain is that there is in the American experience what was a great addition to the global experience of progress, growth, and prestige. It would not have been possible for a nation of immigrants, who came to a new hostile world, to prosper with what it flourished and progress with what it advanced, had it not been for the effort, work, and innovation that it made in various fields, including the political field, both in theory and in practice. However, the experience must be subjected to the examination, study, and deep understanding of other previous and later experiences, especially as it is in its current historical role moving to a new stage based on dividing the world between democracy and authoritarianism on the one hand, while at the same time calling on other nations to cooperate with her in saving humanity and planet Earth. This stage has always been normal in the imperial periods of human history, when each of them puts the inhabitants of the planet before decisive choices, either with us or against us, which was understood when the issue was dealing with terrorism, but is now a division of the world without a major common cause. This time, the United States is doing it with the arrogance of a superpower that no longer notices the major changes in the global pyramid of power, which has changed a lot from what it was at the end of World War II and the Cold War. What is more dangerous is that while the United States wants the world to be democratic, it forgets and ignores its history of the democratic issue itself, whether it was from the past when the American state was established, or the modern experience during the last decade that showed fundamental flaws in the American political system. During nearly 2.5 centuries, American democracy has not always been on that ideal image based on the balance of powers and periodic elections that lead to an emphasis on the majority and minority rule that ensures the peaceful resolution of disputes, which represents a kind of natural choice that makes strength and health from characteristics of the state, the nation, and its political system. The beginning was with the birth of the state, which was founded on the shoulders of a revolution against the British occupation, and its results were two documents, American Declaration of Independence, and the Constitution. This starting point, based on the heritage it produced, has always remained important in terms of human freedom and ability to choose. At the same time, it was very compatible with the contemporary American reality at the time and the maturity of the American experience itself. The American state was founded on 40 white people and slave owners who knew European political literature, from John Locke, to Montesquieu, to the philosophers of the social contract, in order to produce a double personal state. On the one hand, it had its take on the highest stages of human thought, which held that all human beings are born equal in rights to life, liberty, and the search for happiness. On the other hand, despite what the Constitution provided for a tight framework to limit the ruler's power and to separate powers, at the same time it approved slavery and with it the enslavement of indigenous citizens while waging a war of extermination against them. For a long time, women's rights did not fall within this wonderful framework of public liberties, and when the country fell into the first severe political test, such as the occurrence of the French Revolution, to demand the same principles of the American Revolution, the political elite sided with the authoritarian when it produced the Sedition and Strangers Law, while John Adams was one of the symbols of the American Revolution and the second President of the United States in power. The division was clear within the American political elite, not only between the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, or between what was represented by Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton, or between nation building and state building, but also between union and diversity. This appeared strongly since the establishment of the state, and continued on this basis until the outbreak of the Civil War, which was apparently for the liberation of slavery, but its essence was the preservation of the Union in the face of the rights claimed by the non-Anglo-Saxon components of the indigenous population and those who came to it from the components of Africa and other origins, those who were religiously professed to the Catholic sect or other sects and religions. Although in the aftermath of the Civil War, several constitutional amendments, Amendments 13, 14, and 15, were made to expand the scope of elections, what happened in the political process in the decades after that withheld the voting process from African Americans and others until the mid-1960s. While women had obtained it in 1919, the indigenous population that remained after the wars of extermination gained the right to vote and remain in private nature reserves. Presenting this long history is not intended to score points against American democracy, but rather to emphasize that it was a genius in dealing with its reality, as it made great efforts to adapt to this reality. And it was no coincidence that no woman has ever held political power, and the president was not a Catholic until 1960 when John F. Kennedy won the presidential election, and more than half a century later came Biden. And no black president came until Barack Obama. But the issue was not only a war between harmony and diversity, but also about the efficiency of the American system in dealing with its various issues, an efficiency that has been declining during the last 7 decades. The American political system was not only an obstacle to defeat in the Vietnam, Iraqi and Afghan wars, but also to the management of the state's will itself as a result of the severe division between Republicans and Democrats, which in practice led to political paralysis, resulting in the government's inability to work and the president's resorting to executive decisions in order to manage them. Country. The sharp division and polarization quickly brought Donald Trump to power, not only to cancel major decisions taken by his predecessor, but also to launch the largest campaign against American institutions, as well as all international organizations. Prior to his departure from the White House, the U.S. president had colluded in the 2 most dangerous operations that shook the very idea of democracy, namely, questioning the results of the elections, and urging the masses to attack Congress itself on January 6, 2021. The Democracy Conference held by President Biden, in which he invited 110 countries from the world, might have been more appropriate for him to hold it in the United States itself, which needs more than ever to review the democratic idea within the state and its efficiency in achieving the higher interests of the state, and how it can adapt to a new reality, internal and global. President Biden imagines that democracy, as it was reported, is an absolute state that has nothing to do with the objective conditions of countries, with the United States in the forefront. Nearly a year into his term, the goal of American unity has not been achieved, and the fight against COVID-19 has become more efficient. America needs a lot of thinking. What is certain is that there is in the American experience what was a great addition to the global experience of progress, growth, and prestige. It would not have been possible for a nation of immigrants